Welcome back to the 5 Fantasy Show with me, Joe, and Liv. Obviously, approaching game week 8. We had a missed game week 7, and game week 6 didn't go too well for either of us, did it, Liv?
No, it wasn't a very high-scoring game week. I think you get 45?
Yeah,
and I
league
got
average.
and I got 36.
Yeah.
So it wasn't very good. I think maybe we needed a week off just to
We did.
refresh our minds and to just go again. But I'm very excited to go again, albeit with a slightly smaller game week. Joe, this game week.
And, I mean, lots of chat about wildcards.
I think this is like, this game week is, do you wildcard or do you not wildcard? Now, there is someone who is definitely going to wildcard. We'll let him take you through it.
Right, Olivia, Joe, I've had enough of the banter. I've had enough of you lot trying to give it to me. I am back. Wildcard week. I am coming back to take the bacon. This is what happens now. I've let you get ahead. What the greats do normally is they let people get ahead, let them get a bit complacent, and then go bang. And I've brought in Son. I know a few of you are going to say, what's he doing? He's mad. He ain't scoring the goals. But Son produces. Golden Boot winner last year. How can you go against this guy? He will come good. Quality always rises. The cream rises to the top. I brought him in. Up front, I brought Mitrovic. Scores every week. Every week there's a game he scores at the moment. From not scoring last time he was in the Premier League to actually being a banger now. Got to be involved. Toney. Brentford's main man and talisman at Brentford has to be in the team as well. This guy producing the goods, either it's an assist or it's a goal. He influences the game. So that's my guys I'm bringing in. Also, I can't go without mentioning Mr. Trippier. Kieran Trippier bangs in a free kick. They're keeping clean sheets at times. He's performing himself as an individual. So listen, what more has to be said? Wild card, here we come.
All right, so we have Rio's wildcarded side in front of us. A few standouts immediately to me, anyway. I like Nick Pope. I think I'm also going to wildcard in Nick Pope. A huge amount of saves so far this season. Fairly good fixture list going up towards the World Cup as well. So I quite like the double up between him and Trippier.
Yeah.
But there's a man in midfield I'm not entirely sold on, and that's Heung-min Son.
Yeah, I just feel like, I know he's going to probably come good at some point because he's too good not to. But at the moment, he's got 1 assist in 6 games. I watched Spurs in the Champions League this week as well, and they're just not clicking. Something's not right. And I know they've been winning this season, but every time I've watched them, I haven't been blown away with their attacking style of play. Under Conte, that's never really what happens. They just have a knack of winning. I just don't think Son's a good FPL option right now. I think if you want a Spurs option, the obvious option is to go with Harry Kane. That obviously makes your attacking options or your forward options a little bit more difficult because there are so many now mid-price range strikers, forwards that you could opt for. But I think if you want a Spurs attacker, it has to be Kane over Son, surely. And also, you think of if you want a premium midfielder, what about KDB?
I think KDB is a fantastic asset. If you can somehow get a triple of Manchester City, of Cancelo, KDB in midfield and Haaland going forward, I think despite the fact after the 3 fixtures they've got coming up, then they hit a tough run, I do still think KDB is going to be a huge point scorer. One
thing to note, though, is having 3 Man City players, their game against Arsenal in game week 12 has been postponed.
Yeah.
So you're then looking at currently Rio having, so if you had KDB as well, it would be Cancelo, Haaland, KDB, Martinelli, Saliba.
Yeah.
So that's 5 players that aren't playing, which means you're already starting the game week with 10 players.
Yeah.
So that's a lie, 9 players, because your keepers on Arsenal or Spurs. So you Arsenal or Man City. So I think that's worth noting when you are doing your wild card, maybe to not look at getting 3 Arsenal and 3 City. Maybe 2 of each is the right way to go. Maybe that's even too much. What do you reckon? Do you reckon you should be planning ahead for game week 12? As we look ahead to game week 8?
The thing is, I think it's difficult to plan ahead for the postponements because you might see more fixtures get shuffled if you're using your wild card this early, which I think is totally reasonable to do, especially if, like me, you've got 5 first-team players that aren't going to be playing this coming week. I think it's fine to wildcard. If you're planning on wildcarding game week 9 before this, to wildcard game week 8, I don't think is a massive issue at all. And I agree with you. I think that, to drop Son now while they are still figuring out what that front line looks like, I don't think is a big issue. But to bring him in, I think is a bizarre choice, which is what Rio's gone for. Yeah,
that is what Rio's gone for. But, I mean, what about Dejan Kulusevski? I know Richarlison's been playing a lot in Europe recently, but it does feel like Kulusevski is maybe preferred in the Premier League? Is he a better option than someone like Son in terms of the prices between them both? If you want a Spurs midfielder for that Leicester at home fixture, which I think is why a lot of people on their wildcards this week will be transferring in a Spurs attacker at least.
Yeah.
What about Kulusevski? Or is there too much of a risk now that Richarlison might start?
I think there's such a big risk that he like sticks with that front three and tries to make it work. We've seen Antonio Conte teams in the past. Once he finds a team that he likes, he tends to really stick with it. I think of that Chelsea side that won the Premier League. I think they never changed formation, never changed personnel. So I would be slightly worried about using a player like Kulusevski now that Richarlison's come heavily into the team. I still go back to your original shout of I would potentially be thinking of dropping Son and bringing Kane in and then taking a hit of a cheaper midfielder, just because I do think Kane versus Leicester is a recipe for a bloodbath given how many goals Leicester are conceding at the moment. The keeper, Ward, looks extremely suspect. So I would be thinking about Harry Kane. And if you can get Kane and Haaland front line, that's a scary prospect, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. I also think there's a thing in that forward line that's worth talking about now. We actually spoke about this when we recorded last week's, but of course didn't go out because of the postponements. But the Toney, Mitrovic, Isak debate. Now Diego Costa's been thrown in the mix at just 5.5.
Don't throw him in that group.
Do you know what? After the international break, Chelsea's first home fixture is Wolves at Stamford Bridge. That's got 1-0 Wolves, Diego Costa written all over it, by the way. But let's just stick to Toney, Mitrovic and Isak then, because that is such a big and good debate. Now, Rio's gone for 2 of them, which is interesting because a lot of people are opting for 1. Now, if you were to pick 1 out of Mitrovic, Toney and Isak, which one would you pick?
I would be picking Mitrovic. His goal returns and points returns across the course of the season have been so consistent. I think he's returned in every single game week so far this season, bar one. And the one he didn't return and he missed a penalty in. Yeah. So I think there's plenty of room for Mitrovic to continue scoring these goals. And it's not as if his goals have all been against small teams either. Yeah. He scored goals against good teams now. He scored against Liverpool, scored against Tottenham. So I think there's huge upside at taking Alexander Mitrovic at 6.9 because he's the cheapest of the options as well. Whereas I look at Toney, and yes, he's a very solid striker, probably a better all-round player than Mitrovic, but hasn't had the returns that Mitrovic has had early doors this season. And the same could be said of Alexander Isak. I just think it's a little bit of an unknown when he costs more than Mitrovic.
I think Isak is definitely one to keep your eye on. I mean, looking at Mitrovic's fixtures there, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle at home, West Ham away, Bournemouth at home, Villa at home. They are fixtures that you can see him causing problems in, and Fulham have definitely changed the way they've played the last time they were in the Premier League. And he looks so dangerous. Unreal. So dangerous.
And he takes all the pens.
I think we're going to get onto my team in a second, but out of the 3, will probably be going for Alexander.
I do think that after a couple of more weeks of seeing Alexander Isak, he might become an option because Newcastle across the course of the season are going to be a better team than Fulham and are going to score more goals than Fulham. So if Isak suddenly becomes the number 9, even when we see Callum Wilson return, because if Callum Wilson returns and that pushes Isak out to the wing, then it might not be as much of a viable pick as a Mitrovic. But if he stays through the middle and looks as good as he has in the first couple of weeks wearing a Newcastle shirt, then I think he will obviously become an option because despite the fact Gabriel Jesus is playing really well, and I love him, I think he's been one of the best players in the league so far this season, goal returns haven't quite been there to match the performances that he's putting in. Yes, he's picking up assists as well, I do think that it might become to the point of the season where despite the fact he's playing brilliantly and despite the fact he's doing so much around the pitch, does the fact that he doesn't score as many goals hurt you at 8?
I think so. I mean, he scored the same amount of goals as Raheem Sterling this season, which I think is actually crazy when we talk about the difference in the two. He is playing better, but in FPL, it doesn't matter how you play. No. You need assets that are going to score. He's 8.1 million. He has blanked in 2 of the last 3 fixtures. And when you look at Brentford away, is a tough game. Arsenal found that out last season. Chelsea found that out last season. Man United found that out this season. That's not guaranteed. Tottenham at home, anything can happen in the derby. We know that.
Jesus is scoring in that.
Liverpool at home, Leeds away, and then Man City at home. Now,
it's a tough run.
I have done one draft on my wildcard, which we will get into next. I can't actually remember if he's in my team. We'll find out. But this is making me actually think
question mark.
I should maybe be getting him
Too
out.
Too early for me to get him out now, but I will be thinking it if there's a couple more blanks.
Right, okay, so that was Rio's wild card. No Gabriel Jesus. It's time to have a look at mine.
All right, let's have a look at what you're suggesting here, Liv, for your team. Too cool for school. As the Chelsea fan, that has really made me happy that you've named your team after him and then sacked him unceremoniously.
Have I got to change it? I'm actually so glad. So when we recorded this last week, I was in a very bad way. So I'm glad that one did go out. I'm better now.
Are you? Now that Graham Potter's in the building.
Still sad.
Potter? Okay, let's have a look at your team then. Come on.
Okay, so this was my team for game week 6, or my squad for game week 6. I am going to do a live wild card. So the first player I want, I'm keeping Reece James and Trent and Cancelo. Okay. They are the 3 I'm keeping.
Keeping Trent, yeah? Even with the no game week this weekend and the bad fixtures.
Yes. But it will be a case of giving him a few weeks because that I can transfer in any other defender I like. Okay. And it frees up money elsewhere because I won't be putting a £7.5 million defender in to replace him. Tsimikas is quite a good option though because he looked impressive and Andy Robertson's injured. Anyway, let's take out Lewis Dunk because that was one of the worst transfers of my life. I brought him in and he scored no goal and then conceded about 5 or 2, whatever. Okay, Trippier in. I've missed out on Trippier. For
a long time. Can't believe it's taking you this long to bring Trippier in.
Yeah, I know. Frustrating. This is like for like. I could keep Patterson because he does play every week for Everton. They don't have European fixtures. However, if I was going to potentially keep an eye on West Ham's European fixtures, because Emerson is a very good option at 4 million. So between him and Patterson, it's not really a huge deal because I don't think either of them are going to go up in price.
And we're shooting this, just to make it clear, before the Europa League fixtures have happened. Yeah. So we don't know whether Emerson's played tonight. So you're relying basically before you actually...
Yeah, but then obviously with a wild card, I can make as many changes up until the Friday deadline this game week. So if he plays 90 minutes in the Europa Conference League, then that might affect my thinking.
Okay.
Finally,
he's finally gone emotional. KDH.
Emotional after the 10-point haul in game week 1. It is time to go, and this is just painful because I had him for like 4 game weeks. We've been through this. I don't really want to talk about it again, but I feel like now's the time to get Marcus Rashford back in.
Yeah, even though United obviously haven't seen this week's Europa League result, but had a poor result against Sociedad at home. He didn't play. He's had injury problems. You're still going to bring him in the wild card?
I think I'm going to wait and see until obviously at the time we're doing this, Man United haven't played, so I'm just going to wait for that game and then make a decision. The only annoying thing is 6.6. He's so cheap. He's a striker playing out of position. He's a midfielder, playing as a striker. Yeah. He is in very good form. So yeah, I'm going to keep him, but this could mess up my plans because there's not many good options around that price point. Yeah. Obviously, he doesn't play this weekend either. This is the one.
He's gone.
Get rid.
Even though he scored midweek. Yes. Finally got a goal midweek. Liverpool, good finish. Took it well. I thought Liverpool looked all right.
They looked better. But Luis Diaz has by far and away looked their best player in every game they've played. And even he's blanked in the last 2. But he's just looked way more impressive. And I can't justify keeping Salah at 12.9. I just can't. Huge fees. But the one thing I am going to do, right now I'm going to do it.
Mitro. Who is it? Mitro?
Nope.
Kane. Wow.
Now, that Leicester at home fixture, I watched Spurs in the Champions League, and this sort of contradicts what I'm about to say because they did not look good.
No.
I always find going away in the Champions League is very hard. Sporting Lisbon are a much harder outfit right now than Leicester at home. Mm-hmm. Like I said about Rio's team, if I had to pick one of Son or Kane, I'm 100% going Kane. And this could change, guys. This is a first draft of my wild card. So I could very well get rid of Kane and save that money elsewhere and split up that money in my defence, in my midfield and my attack. But as it stands, I think I'm going to get rid of him as well.
Jesus.
Yep.
Gone for Mitro.
Well,
wow.
I just think that front 3 of Kane, Haaland and Mitro, but also looking ahead to game week 12 where Arsenal play City, that game has been postponed. That means I then have one less thing to think about come game week 12.
Jesus is gone.
So currently I have two Arsenal and 2 City, which means that could be my bench because I have a goalkeeper as well.
Yeah.
So that means I will have 11 players to fill fields for game week 12 without having to make any changes. Obviously, you can make changes. Now, this is the one.
I mean, 5.5, it's not too bad, is it? But given that you have kind of got 4 starting midfielders already in that setup, haven't you?
But Rashford isn't playing this week, remember? Rashford's not got a fixture.
Yeah,
Luis
but
Diaz hasn't got a fixture. Yeah, so my back 3 as it stands would be Trippier, Emerson and Cancelo, Ramsdale in goal, Martinelli, whoever this 5.5 is, and Andreas, and then a front 3 of Mitro, Kane and Haaland. Yeah. So 5.5 for a midfielder. Let's do it this way so we can actually see it there. Midfielders. Pascal Gross doesn't have a fixture. Alexis McAllister doesn't have a fixture. Rodrigo doesn't have a fixture.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be touching any of those 3 anyway.
Also, they're not in my price points. That was unlimited.
After Graham Potter's sacking, I'd be worried about touching Brighton assets. And obviously, Rodrigo's got a dislocated shoulder.
I'm not going to do you and put in Xhaka. Don't want Højbjerg. Podence, City, not really. But this is pretty much for one game week only. When I look at my squad, this is a player, 5.5 million, that will be on the bench. Ideally, I would go Eze. I really would go Eze, but they haven't got a fixture either. So it's really difficult.
Anthony Gordon's been scoring goals recently.
Do you know, he was actually in another one of my wildcard options. They have got West Ham at home. West Ham, again, playing in Europe, playing a lot of fixtures, haven't looked great in the league. So he was potentially one that I was thinking about.
So a tentative wildcard.
I haven't actually clicked wildcard active yet, by the way. So this is...
Okay, but this is a kind of tentative idea of what you might look at.
I think I want to go with, which means, Trent, Reece James... and Lewis, no, that doesn't work. That actually doesn't work because that means I would have only 10 players playing. Yeah,
but I think you're going to have to
make a sort of like have a cut off somewhere
in order to have success further down the line.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's going to be a massive issue with only having 10 starters this week, given that there are going to be people at home watching this who are considering 9 or 8.
Yeah.
So I don't think 10's a massive issue, given that you've got some extremely strong players there, and then you've got the choice between Haaland and Kane for captaincy.
Which I think we'll get onto after we've looked at our teams, or after we've looked at my team. So that's a 16 points. That's I don't know if I've made as many subs as I would like to on a wild card, but I don't think that should come into it now. I have to wild card because I've got far too many players that aren't playing this weekend. So let me know what you think of this first draft. Well, stop it. You're wildcarding this weekend. He's just glad he doesn't have to do a live wildcard because he did it last week and didn't want to do it again.
It was a disaster.
Yeah. So let me know what you think of this wildcard. Why are you laughing?
Just, all I'm saying
You're not going to be laughing when Kane gets a hat-trick against Leicester this weekend and you don't have him in your team.
We'll see.
We shall see.
All right, let's discuss captains then. We mentioned it very briefly. There is a huge dearth of entertaining fixtures this weekend, to be honest with you, and a huge dearth of opportunities for captaincy, which leaves me thinking that you are going to end up captaining Kane if you're bringing him in?
Yeah, I'm not 100% on bringing him in, but actually, when we look, I didn't realise, despite Spurs not necessarily playing well this season, he has returned in every game bar one, Harry Kane.
It's unbelievable.
So that is maybe swaying me towards keeping him now in my wildcard team. I need to actually click confirm, because otherwise I need to remember to do that. Haaland has Wolves away. Now, Haaland is inevitable. That man is inevitable.
Yeah.
He will probably score. Wolves have conceded the least amount of goals in the league this season. But can I justify going away from someone like Haaland in the form he's in? However, that Leicester at home fixture for Harry Kane and Spurs is looking very, very appealing. And I don't think a lot of people... Thing is, a lot of people may look to go Salah to Kane on a wild card, but how many people do you think will be transferring Kane in?
Quite a few.
Do you think?
I think quite a few. And if you've got Kane, then I think you have to go for Kane. I think they're going to want to bounce back in a big way from a poor result midweek. And Antonio Conte has that horrible European record hanging over his head.
He's not a good European manager, is he?
Such a bad European record. I read a statistic the other day that the last time he won a knockout game in the Champions League, or in fact in any European competition, Harry Kane hadn't scored a league goal as a professional footballer, which is obviously a long old time ago now. So I think he's going to want to bounce back in a big way. And I do think they're going to blow Leicester out the water, who just look so porous at the back. Kane's going to score. So if you've got Kane, I'll be captaining Kane. I'm not sure if I'm going to go to Kane yet. If I go to Kane, I'll give it to him. If not, I'll keep it with Haaland.
He's going to go to Kane because he just looked at my wild card off camera and was like, that's a really good wild card. So watch Joe bring in Kane and captain him.
Can't prove it.
So yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very late decision for me. Because I think it's so difficult to sway away from Erling Haaland. Do you think that Wolves away? Obviously, the fixture is better for Kane.
Yeah. I think you're talking yourself out of it. I think the fact that Wolves have got a very solid defence, have conceded very few goals, and Leicester, who are the worst defensive side in the league, basically, other than Nottingham Forest, I would be going there. Maybe you could have a look at Mitrovic, given that he is playing Nottingham Forest at home, who have conceded the most shots on target in the league.
Yeah.
Alexander Mitrovic
classically
takes a lot of shots from inside the box.
Bold.
It'd be bold, but it's a ballsy decision, and it's the sort of decision that sometimes can have huge sway. If you end up captaining Mitrovic, he returns with 2 goals.
And the others
Kane and
don't.
Haaland blank, then it's a huge swing in your favour of a differential, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they're going to be the main options with obviously a lot of the Chelsea-Liverpool assets not playing. Not that you would captain any Chelsea-Liverpool assets right now.
Definitely.
But let us know who you're going to captain. I think I'm going to go Kane.
I've not made my mind up.
Let us know who you're going to captain for game week 8.
All right, just a quick reminder before we go that the deadline this week is on a Friday, 6:30, because there's 2 Friday night semi-entertaining fixtures that I'm sure people will be tuning in for, but they will be points relevant. Anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
Yeah, let us know if you're going to wildcard. Let us know if you're not going to wildcard, what transfers you're going to make, and who you're going to captain for game week 8. Because I think this could be a pretty good game week, and where I think there could be a lot of swings between different players' point scorers, because a lot of them have been the same recently. But yeah, let us know who you captain, and we will see you all next week.
The Invincibles had it off for that season, and they were a great side. And I might be wrong here, but I don't think they won multiple leagues like the 2018 and won the Champions League and went the distance in finals